maybe you have a negative relationship or an aversion to it because of something that has happened in your past, or maybe you think sales has to be a certain way. The people who are really good at selling things are really good at finding a solution to a problem.
My point is one person is trying to sell you, the other person is trying to help you.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was last week's live Q&A. Is there a difference between having confidence and having an ego? Today, for episode number 907, why most people suck at sales. I remember when people would talk about sales, I would tuck my tail between my legs because I not only disliked it strongly, but I also was not very good at it. Alan, I'm going to let you talk for a second while I turn my light on.
Okay. So the first thing to understand here, and this was Kevin's idea to do this, but you got to understand what sales is. Sales is not just selling a product or a service. It's actually being able to influence someone to take a new positive action. So you need to reframe that. I was talking recently with Emilia, and I was telling her about this new way in which I notice more people come to our monthly meetups when I do this certain way. And she's like, well, do you struggle with that at all? I said, no, because it's a positive thing for them. And what I was talking about was something called social proof, which is simply when there's a lot of people signed up to the meetup, I like to show who's signed up so that everybody gets excited about going to, it's like, oh, that person's going and that person's going and that person's going. It's a way to influence people in a more positive way. And as long as what you're selling is in integrity and what you're influencing people for is new positive change for their life, and it's truly with integrity, then sales is not a bad thing. It's not manipulative. You have to think of sales as, instead of using the word sales, you can use empower. Because if I convince you to listen to this podcast, I am now empowering you to have a better, bigger, brighter future. I'm empowering you to believe in yourself more. So again, sales is the title here because we are going to talk a little bit about how to actually sell a product or service. But influence, empowerment, and persuasion are really what we're talking about.
So very similar to what Alan said, I believe that most people don't actually know what sales is. They assume sales is getting somebody to give you money for something else or something of value. Or some people think sales is getting money for something. That's it. It doesn't have to be valuable. It doesn't have to be worth it. It doesn't have to be any of those things. It doesn't have to be reputable. It doesn't have to be in alignment. It doesn't have to be with integrity. And I think that's why a lot of people hear the word sales and they have a negative association. They have an aversion to that. So I was listening to The Go-Giver by Bob Burg, and I think it's John David Mann. I said I was going to try to remember his name. Hopefully I did. But it's a book about this very successful businessman who says, it's all about giving. It really is all about giving. How did I become as successful as I did? It's because I gave, and I gave with the intention of giving, not receiving. And again, that's challenging if you're new in business, and that's challenging if you're scarce, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But Taryn and I were driving to brunch, and I said, somebody recommended this book. Shout out to Aaron, who recommended The Go-Giver, and I had never listened to it. Taryn and I listened to it, and it prompted this idea for us to do this episode. So I had a client one time who, she was leaving her job in the restaurant industry, and she was going into car sales. And she said, you've studied sales. You've worked with Alan, who studied sales. What advice do you have for me? And I said, honestly, there's probably a bunch of BS I could give you, and there's closing techniques, and there's all this stuff. I said, realistically, what I think you should do is, I think when you go there, number one, be your bubbly self, because you have a wonderful, wonderful personality. And I said, number two, just be genuine and help people with what they need. Don't try to point them in a certain direction. Point them in the direction that they want to go in. And I believe 6 or 7 months later, this person had made, or not 6 or 7 months later, over the course of the next year, I'm pretty sure this person did 6 figures, over $100,000 that year. And I believe that many of us think that we need to say the right thing, or we need to have the right pitch, or we need to have the right close, or whatever the hell it may be. And the problem is, a lot of us are learning these things from people who don't always have great products to sell, or they don't have a brand, or even more, Alan, I wanted to talk about this too. Many people who teach sales are teaching you how to sell to other people who understand sales, or they're teaching you how to sell to people with egos. Selling to somebody who is very logical and maybe ego driven is way different than having a sales conversation with somebody who's emotionally driven. Way different. 100% different. And I don't think enough people talk about that, Alan. I know that most of the people in the sales industry are very M. So if you've heard us talk about PMES, E is somebody who is emotionally driven. That was me in the beginning of this journey, and still me more than Alan. And then there's M. That's somebody who's logically driven. They're numbers. They usually understand sales. They understand numbers. They understand all that stuff. So you have to understand where you're actually getting your information from. That's a huge, important piece of this, because I told Alan, I bought a book when I was really trying to learn sales. I bought a bunch of books, but I bought a book by Grant Cardone called, I think it was the Closer's Survival Guide. That was the name of it. And I remember getting to the end of the book, and I was like, that might have been the most useless book I've ever listened to in my entire life. And one of the things was, if I'm in a sales conversation with Alan, and I say to Alan, I know you want to start a podcast, brother, and we have this thing called Next Level Podcast Solutions, and we'll do everything for you. Just got to show up, you talk into the mic, and we'll produce all your content, and I guarantee it'll help your show grow. I've seen so much amazing progress from our clients. And Alan might come back and say, honestly, Kev, right now, that's out of my budget. There's two ways to go. If you want to use something super salesy, in this book, it's literally, why don't you just do it anyway? Why don't you just do it anyway? And then see what happens. Or something that I've said to people all the time. I say this once a week. Why don't you tell me what your budget is, and I'll try to find a way to hit it. I can't guarantee I'll be able to, but if it's not a win-win, it's a loss. If you working with us is going to put you into debt that you don't want to be in, I probably don't want to be part of that. I want you to win. That's why I'm trying to get you to work with us, because I want you to win. So I don't subscribe to a lot of the stuff that's out there, and that's why I was very excited to do this episode. So your goal in any sales interaction is to figure out what the person wants and how you can help them get that. If I know Alan loves inspirational movies, I'm not going to invite him to watch A Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm going to say, hey, there's this movie about this guy who was in this plane crash and he survived on the land for a month, and then he swam his way to a boat and they took him on, and then he became this super successful business owner who empowered people in third world countries and changed the world. That's a movie Alan would like. But I understand that because I know what Alan values. Last part that I have when it comes to this, and then I'll tell a quick story. But I was on the phone with a client recently, and I was also on the phone with somebody who I did a podcast interview with. I was on her show. And at the end, she said, I have all these services, I have all these products, and I did everything my coach told me to do, and for some reason, I'm not getting any sales. And I said, I'm just going to go with what I feel intuitively here. Do you ever get on the phone with somebody and in your mind, you have to get a sale because maybe money's tight or you don't have a lot of clients? And before that call, you're hyping yourself up saying, I got to get this done. I got to get this done. This has to happen. I have to make sure I get a client today. And she said, yeah, that resonates. And I said, this is the problem. Number one, people can sense that. Number two, you're probably not trying to find the best fit. And number three, you're not being your authentic self, who may actually be really good at helping somebody find the product or the service, or helping somebody solve the problem that they have. You're not good at that when you're in scarcity, because I know I wasn't good at that either. That was the hardest thing in the world, Alan. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but early on when I'd get on the phone with a podcaster and I would think to myself, I have to find a way to get a client. I know we're trying to grow the business. I have to find a way to get a client this week. I need X amount of clients this month. My conversations would be different. And now I routinely tell people, yeah, maybe we're not right for you right now. Maybe the budget isn't high enough, or where they are with their podcast. I don't see it aligning the right way. I tell people that pretty often because maybe you going out and finding a virtual assistant is where you're at. Maybe it's not hiring a full production team. I'm okay with admitting that. So I think that's part of it too. Imagine yourself having conversations abundantly with the only goal of adding value and finding the best fit. The only goal is to add value to the person that you're talking to. And guess what? And I've said this many times. Oftentimes when I'm on a podcast breakthrough session, at the end of it, somebody will say, hey, Kev, what does it take to work with you? Because I'm not trying to sell you. I'm trying to add value. I'm trying to share with you what I've learned over our 900 episodes. And if we decide to work together, that's awesome. If not, hopefully I added value to your life and your podcast and you'll succeed even if it's a little bit higher. That's always my goal. Last thing. I've told this story before, but I want to tell it again. I used to be a personal trainer, and I was a personal trainer at a high-end studio where we only did one-on-one sessions. We had private rooms. Everything was very, very nice. It was a very high-end establishment. And when I signed up to this place, I signed a 1-year contract that said I would not leave there within the first year, and if I did, I had to pay $1,000. And they tried to teach me sales, and they tried to teach me closes, and they said when somebody has an objection, you have to give them pain. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, this person, for instance, if you told her that if she continues gaining weight, she's not going to be around to see your grandson. I said, that's a little much because this person's not morbidly obese. This person isn't in the shape they want to be, but that's not how I want to go about it. And it kept getting worse and it kept getting worse. And they actually, I don't know if I've ever said this, Alan, they actually cut my pay. So I think I went from making $17 an hour. And at one point, they actually cut my pay to $15 an hour because I didn't have any sales. And I was like, oh, now I'm losing money on this. This is brutal. So it literally got to the point where I called them one day, and because I didn't have the courage to do it in person. And I was like, hey, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't for me. And they're like, well, you do realize you're going to have to pay $1,000 when you leave. And I said, yeah, just tell me who to make the check out to. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And that left a real sour taste in my mouth for a long time when it came to sales. These people were doing really well, but I do believe if they were more intentional with the way they did sales, I do believe that place would be doing way better than it actually was and is. I don't know how it's doing now. So the whole point that I'm trying to make here is sales probably isn't what you think it is. Maybe you have a negative relationship or an aversion to it because of something that has happened in your past, or maybe you think sales has to be a certain way. The people who are really good at selling things are really good at finding a solution to a problem. That's really all it is. If you have a solution to somebody's problem, you just have to talk to them and communicate effectively that, hey, look, I think this would work really well. I usually say no pressure. I'm not trying to pressure you. If it's not a fit, it's not a fit. And honestly, if you get somebody to sign up with you who shouldn't be working with you in the first place, they're not going to stay for long either. And that's the important thing is it's not a win-win, it's a loss. Sorry, I went off there. I went off there.
No, it's awesome, man. It's good. It's good. Imagine if Netflix was $500 a month. Many of us would have to cancel that. And so there's some people out there that say things like add a zero, try that out. And then there's other people who like don't know their worth and charge too little. I think the best way that I can add value on this is two main things. Because Kev, you did a really good job. I had a moment where I'm like, I'm really genuinely impressed with how far you've come. It's like wild.
Well, I learned much of what I know from you early on, so I must credit you with that as well.
And I actually have a really exciting live event coming up in Boston. If you can come visit us, I'm joining my friends at Next Level University, and I would love to meet you all. And that is on March 26th. So get your tickets soon.
I appreciate that, man. Honestly, it's weird because I'm grateful that you say that. I take some of that credit, but you've done better than me at this in many regards, and I think that I had a moment during this where I'm like, I think that sometimes I go in with scarcity and I scare people away because I'm so excited to work with them. I don't think it's scarcity. I think I'm so excited. There's one person I'm thinking of recently that wanted to work with me, was so pumped to work with me, got on the phone with him, and he's this awesome guy, and I was so excited to work with him. that I overwhelmed the hell out of them.
Yeah.
And I was trying to add value, but I think that overwhelm came, that excitement, I think, came off as scarcity, and I think I scared him away. Go ahead, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say this, and you and I have talked about this behind the scenes, but it's different because I have a product/service where I think coaching is just a little bit different. So I think it's probably a little bit easier for me because our product, for the most part, speaks for itself, and it's just my job to say, hey, does this work? Does this fit your budget? Does it not? That's kind of the way I go about it. So, but I appreciate that very much.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. So, quick story. Imagine you walk into a store, and it's a Best Buy. So if you've ever been to a Best Buy, you go into the store, and there's the salesperson who's sitting by the electronics, and you are in there because you need this new USB cable that you've got it pulled up online, and you're like, I need this specific one that my tech resource told me. And I also, my laptop has been out here jeffing me lately, and I need a new laptop. And on that laptop, I need to be able to do emails, I need to be able to watch Netflix, and I need to make sure that it's fast enough for those simple things, but I don't need anything crazy. Now imagine someone comes up to you and says, hey, just so you know, we've got this incredible new product that, by the way, I get commission on. Hey, this product over here, this new laptop, it's $3,000 and it's the best top of the line. You're going to be sitting there going, you didn't even ask me what I need. Versus someone who says, hey, how can I help you? And then you say, well, I'm looking for this USB cable, and you pull up your phone, and it's this exact one. It's like, oh, yeah, we've got that. And then they bring you over to that. And then they say, is there anything else that you need? And it's like, yeah, honestly, my laptop's been out here jeffing, and I need a new one that can do XYZ. And you're like, oh, we've got this perfect one. Here's a couple options. This one's like the higher end, but honestly, it's probably more than you need. And then this one right here, this is probably perfect for you. This one is going to be a little bit maybe sluggish at times when you have too many tabs open, but it's a lower price point. So you might want to go with that one and just keep your tabs to a minimum. My point is one person is trying to sell you, the other person is trying to help you. I'll never forget, I had a coach one time, the only coach and or mentor in hindsight that, as my awareness grew, my perception of them increased tenfold. It's just unbelievable. This coach was so good. And that's nothing against my other coaches and mentors, but this one in particular stands out as a shining, shining example. I really messed that up. But anyways, so in hindsight, this one coach and mentor said, Alan, you should be so clear on who you are, so clear on the value of your product and service, and so clear in your messaging about the value of that product and service that the person, if it's the right fit, can't go outside, can't stay in integrity with their highest self and not buy from you. In other words, and we actually have an asset, I didn't intend on this, Kevin. I know that you and I didn't talk about this before, but there's something called the 10 Ps of next level marketing. If you don't have these 10 Ps dialed in, it's actually going to be nearly impossible for you to actually congruently sell your product or service because you don't have clarity. How are you going to... One of the reasons why Kevin's so good at selling next level podcast solutions at this point is we have tons of momentum. We've got an incredible team. He's been doing it for a really long time. We have absolute clarity on not only who needs this, but why they need it and how to explain that. And on top of that, we have the credibility of having a 900 episode, 120 country, top 100 show. So if you're starting out and you don't have that big brand and that credibility and that clarity, you've got to get this digital asset. And again, even right now, I want you to understand, yes, I'm somewhat selling something. This digital asset's free, so I'm not really selling it. But the point is that there's 3 assets. One is it's called the next level, 10 Ps of next level marketing, and it's a wheel. And there's a center part that has spokes, and there's 10 Ps. One of them is product, one of them is price, one of them is position, one of them is promotion, one of them is promise, like what's the promise? And I was on the phone recently with a client, and she wants to start coaching. And I had her do this exercise because, listen, if you have broken spokes within yourself, in other words, if you're not clear on who needs your product and service and why and what it is and what it's priced at and all of those Ps, you're not going to be able to go into that conversation with any certainty. You're going to have uncertainty. You're going to overcorrect with scarcity and ego. You're going to scare people away and overwhelm them. And so if you want that asset, please click the link in the show notes. I'll have the NLPS production team put it in there. And it's got 10 specific questions, one question with each of the P's. One of my clients has a poster board of these 10 P's with her answers of her marketing wheel on her board, and she's gotten actually 5 clients since, by the way, Kev.
Love that.
I can't take credit for that, though, because Kev helped her because she was actually doing what I was doing, which was overwhelming everyone with too much value right out of the get, which also is another problem. If you do dump the whole load of value on someone right at first, they might get overwhelmed and feel like they're not good enough. So there is that as well.
Yeah, there's so many different things. The best thing you can do is get on the phone or Zoom. Get on Zoom with somebody, because you're going to find out pretty quickly. I told somebody this. I told a client this, Alan. I said, you just got to kind of start, and then you'll see how the conversation usually goes, and you'll see where it gets weird, and you'll see where you're insecure. If money comes up, if somebody says, hey, what does it cost? And you shell up, that's a thing for you to check in on. I know that was very difficult for me in the beginning. How much does it cost? It's like, oh boy, here we go. It's really happening. And now it's just one of those things of, somebody asked me that the other day. They said, how much is it for consulting? I said, I charge $150 an hour. And that was it. He said, oh, cool. I'll book. Where's your calendar link? Awesome. I'm not trying to sell you. If you want to do it, we'll do it. If not, no hard feelings. And I wish you the best. So if you got to understand this, and last thing before we go, because it's Monday, we have to prep for our live podcast right now. If you are a human being, you really are in sales in some way, shape, or form, whether it's getting your kids to eat a certain thing, whether it's choosing a movie, choosing a restaurant. Anytime there are multiple options and you're trying to get somebody to choose one, you're influencing them. So you're trying to sell them on your idea. And that is par for the course. That is part of life. And if you're in a business, or you're an entrepreneur who has a service or coaching or a product or whatever it may be, this is something very, very, very important to learn. I would just start talking to people, see how the conversations go, and always in the back of your mind, think of this. My ultimate goal here is to add value. The person who adds the most value wins eventually. Eventually. I still do free calls now because, number one, I love talking about podcasting. And number two, say somebody isn't ready to start a show, but they have a good conversation with me and they realize, you know what, he genuinely has my best interest at heart. Maybe they'll come back in a year or 2 years, or maybe they'll come back eventually. Maybe not, but at least they'll have a good experience, and hopefully they'll be better off starting their show by themselves than not having ever talked to me. So that is always the ultimate goal. Next Level Nation, March 26th, 2022. We have a room with 50 people. It'll be 49 people and yourself. 4 speakers, a half day. It's going to be filled with positive energy, knowledge, lessons, wisdom, anything you're looking for. At the end of the day, we all want better. Alan wants better. I want better. We all do. And in order to get better, you have to surround yourself with people who know what you don't know, or people who are strong where you may have weakness. That is why we designed Next Level Live. It's only $97 for tickets. Guarantee you will get your money's worth and more. And who knows, you might meet somebody that you're friends with for the rest of your life, or a business partner, or a client. That is also a very strong possibility. Please join us. Everything you need is in the show notes below.
Remember, sales is about injecting belief and empowering someone else. I know we got to go here. Quick, super fast story. So Tucker loves to play sock. So after Emilia and I likes to play sock.
Play sock, okay.
When we get back from the gym, he wants Dad to take his socks off and play sock, where it's kind of like he uses it as a chew toy. And when he has his socks, my socks in his mouth, he can't jump up on the coffee table, or he believes he can't. So he'll drop the sock, jump up on the coffee table, and then he is like, crap, how do I can you grab this sock for me so we can play up here on the couch? He doesn't believe that he can jump very high with the sock in his mouth. So we encourage him. Tucker, you got this. You can do it. You can do it, Tucker. You can do it. Sales is encouragement. Sales is the ability to help other people believe in themselves at a deeper level. And that's what Next Level Live is. That's what this podcast is. That's what the free course is that I'm about to talk about. We want to empower you to take new positive actions that are good for you. business is at the service of others, not at the expense of others. So no, we're not selling you laptops, but we are selling you personal development. We're selling you the idea that you can be better and that you can achieve your dreams and that you can do it, and that knowledge is the key to that. That said, there are 3 beliefs you must have before you end up buying a product or service. So remember this when you are selling. I know that we had to go here, but I just want to add this real quick. If you believe in the brand, 10 out of 10. So Apple's the best at this. 10 out of 10, how certain are you that Apple has a great computer they're going to sell you? 10 out of 10. From 0 to 10, how much do you believe in the actual product, the MacBook itself? Okay, so the brand Apple, 10 out of 10. The MacBook itself, 10 out of 10. Now, if it's a person you don't believe in that's selling it, you're not going to buy it. But if you believe it, a 10 in Apple, a 10 in the capabilities of the laptop and that it's the right fit for you, but even if you have like a 7 on the person, you're still going to do it because that's a 27 out of 30. The point is that if you don't have a big brand like Apple and you don't have a product that's incredibly valuable and valued by a lot of people, it's going to be a lot harder. You're going to have more integrity. You're going to have people believe in you, who you are. You're not just selling a product or a service, you're selling yourself. And so every one of our clients at Next Level Business Solutions, every one of our clients at Next Level Podcast Solutions, one of the reasons why we're more successful now isn't just that we got better at sales, but people believe in us more. We have more credibility. So if you're at the beginning of your journey, hang in there because it does get easier later on, especially as you get better and better and better and more clear. That said, if you are uncertain about your future, if you are winging it, if you are struggling and you feel like no one understands you, you don't have big goals and dreams, or you do, but no one around you does, but you don't have a roadmap, we have a free course available. So this course is so valuable, in fact, that Kevin did not want to give it away for free. No offense to you, Kev.
No, you're good.
And that's how valuable this is. It's about the 5 C's: clarity, commitment, confidence, consistency, and community. The 5 C's that we believe are the keys to why we got to where we are. Again, it's super valuable. Just because it's free does not mean it's not valuable. The link is in the show notes, and it might not be free forever because I know eventually we want to have an entire online university. Who knows? Maybe we'll get into virtual reality one day, and you'll actually be able to go to school at Next Level University and all that happy jazz. But for now, it's a free course. Download it, and we hope you enjoy.
Next Level Nation, tomorrow for episode number 908, it is Strategy Saturday, how to know when you're outside of alignment. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. We couldn't do without you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Please reach out.